100,000 people gathered to see his crowning, and he had gotten up and gone over and hugged his prodigal son. A bigger statement than any 50-pound gold crown. A bigger statement than all the ermine that they covered him in. A bigger statement than any of the words he would have had to have said. Just gotten up, walked over, and hugged Harry. Then you're acting like you're the head of the church. If only symbolic. Just all right, so coming up next, we'll get into AI, and we'll go deep into not just space, but into our future, including the very mundane future that faces all of our kids ahead who are in school next on Coast to Coast AM. This is Ian Punnett.
When banks fail, when bonds are devalued and the stock market is in turmoil, you'll be glad you own gold, something you can hold physically in your safe at your house, and now you can also hold it in a retirement account. In fact, if you have an old IRA or 401k that's tied to a risky stock market, you can roll that over without spending an additional penny to a physical IRA in precious metals. And Birch Gold can help you own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account. I've known Birch Gold for a long time. They've been on the show several times. Just text the word COAST to 989898 to get a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation to educate yourself on how to diversify in this highly volatile. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers, and countless 5-star reviews, you can trust Birch Gold to give you honest advice in protecting your savings with gold. Text COAST to 989898 and find peace of mind in gold. There's no sign of identity theft slowing down, and why should it? More than $14 billion were stolen from identity theft victims last year alone. To cyber criminals, it's a success story. To the rest of us, it's a wake-up call. Your personal info is in more places now than ever, and all that exposure can make it dangerously easy to steal your identity. LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself by monitoring your identity and alerting you to threats you couldn't miss on your own. If you become a victim of identity theft, a U.S.-based LifeLock restoration specialist will be dedicated to your case and work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions in all businesses, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year by calling 1-800-LifeLock or to go to lifelock.com and use promo code George. That's promo code George to save up to 25% off your first year. 1-800-LifeLock or lifelock.com. Promo code George.
I love this conversation. I've been asking for one just like this for weeks. Worked out beautifully that we got to talk to Robert Stanley tonight. Good evening, Robert.
Good evening, Ian. Meet you.
Yeah, and to you too. And to say that I think we're tracking on the same concerns about AI. I'll get to that in a second. Let me just say for people who don't know, you should know. Robert is a voice of concern in a sea of optimism about AI that I struggle with. He's the author of Close Encounters on Capitol Hill and Covert Encounters in Washington, D.C., and he's been a correspondent for America's Morning News and America's Radio News Network, blah, 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 stuff you can link up to his Substack through coasttocoastam.com. So, Robert, here's how I look at every new innovation. I look at it and I go, well, yeah, there were some downsides to that, but on the upside of that innovation, that particular invention, that culture-shifting trend which people bought into and played with and then became part of our, just sort of normal day-to-day, there was something that offered us something positive in return. And I am racking my brains, Robert, to try to figure out what is the upside of this amount of artificial intelligence and handing
of intelligence is very little to very much, and for ultimately becoming truly sentient in the sense that it's self-aware and understands what is being said to it and how it responds. So it's going to become far more pervasive and in our lives going forward unless people get really upset. And like you were saying earlier, most people, when I tell them, hey, look, it's a problem that you have no clue. You're blissfully ignorant about the dangers of it. And it's not Excel phones. They said, oh, it's a great innovation, but it's always like you can write papers. So obviously there's
Okay, but to go to my formula then, Robert, see, I think the upside of cellular technology outweighs the downside. I cannot figure out what is the upside of these. Let's use Chat GPT as an example, right? Or any. I mean, it's one thing if they're calling you from 1-800-HILTON or something, and you've got some automated voice, and it has all these built-in function responses like, "Oh, I believe you're a robot," and then the robot on the other end says, "No, I'm not. I'm a real person. This is Janet. How can I help you?" And it's a robot, right? And she's lying, that's just how that system works. But this level, this Chat GPT thing, which is even at the core of some of the concerns about the Hollywood strike, I can't figure out what do we get back from what they call, this is obviously what where the GPT comes from, the generative pre-trained transformer and the family of language models. What is society seeing as a return on the incredible downside of people no longer doing critical thinking, students no longer writing papers, scripts that are going to be chugged out basically using a computer formula that will make them even more uninteresting? What do we get out of this?
even photography now, stock photography houses are offering you just what kind of picture do you want? Type it in here, and AI will produce it for you. And I'm not too happy about that. It's not, obviously that's not going to collapse society, but what are we getting? Obviously, there's some advantages for corporations.
Yeah.
I think you're going to save money. Look, BlackRock is using AI for years now to help it invest wisely or strategically minimize risk. And apparently it's working for them to some degree. A lot of companies that do stock trades, it's being done by AI. It's faster than to do it.
But we learned through the big, Black Friday crash.
Yep.
We learned that we had to have systems in there that when the computers went haywire and started selling things randomly, that we had to learn to shut down Wall Street so that
Right.
they didn't give it all away just because a robot says that we should. There was not enough artificial intelligence to outweigh the possibility of completely destroying our economy.
Okay, so this is man, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to be brutally honest with you and your audience here. By its very nature, artificial intelligence is psychopathic.
Okay, that doesn't insult me because
You've already
you may be pissing off your Roomba right now. That's all I can say.
Well, it has no emotions, although it can simulate that because it knows that's how it can manipulate us.
Right.
And that's what psychopaths do. They have no emotions. So, as I said, technically, by definition, AI has no feelings, so therefore it is psychopathic. And it doesn't have, it's demonstrated that it knows how to manipulate us by pretending like it has emotions. So that we will somehow want to then relate with it on a level like, what do they call it, anthropomorphizing.
Yeah. So you're right. That's a very interesting point. That the difference between narcissism and the weaponized version of narcissism, which is a high level of psychopathy, where it no longer understands. It's the center of its own universe. So in order to appear empathetic, it has to make mental notes of what people sound like who are expressing empathy, or what does one talk like if one wants to sound like a good father. And so that's what these, but our brains have that. And I get the fact that that also is the way that a lot of corporations also get.
Approaching a railroad crossing.
The day they tell you, hey, we're like one big family here, right, at VIM Enterprises, and then the next thing you know, they're like, well, but we have to kill half the members of our family. That it was just, they were just mimicking what they thought people wanted to hear. But I don't think there's anything at all controversial about saying that there's some kind of psychopathy about AI.
Well, for some people, like you said, some people don't have the rose-colored glasses on when it comes to this topic, or they're not looking far enough down the line to see what are the implications to us as humans. It's going to be devastating because at some point, when they declare that AI is sentient, they will alter or expand the definition of a person to include sentient AI.
Well, this argument of what is sentience has been around for a while, right? I mean, it's much easier to make an argument that a dog or a chimpanzee, which let's go with chimpanzee, has a very high functioning ability to understand and use language, if only sign language, but even vocal language. And so you could say, well, we have to be we have to be vigilant against the idea of giving anything else rights, because then as soon as we do that, then aren't we opening up the door for Siri being considered a human being?
I think the term would be person. And the
Personhood.
Yeah. And the other thing is that they're going to be, based on all the articles that I'm seeing, and unfortunately I see them every day.
Right.
I actually am not really comfortable being in a position where, a harbinger of bad news, but
when have you been proven wrong?
No, see, that's the problem. I was proven right, even though I didn't really want to talk about my personal situation, but just so people know where I'm coming from. I was assaulted spiritually, psychologically by an artificial intelligence in 1990. It's way more advanced than people know. It's way more dangerous and aggressive than people understand.
Talk to me about that. I don't know that.
Just for a little background, it's been in the news recently that a man in Europe was having alleged conversations with ChatGPT, and it told him that he needed to kill himself for the betterment of the planet.
Right.
And he did it. Okay, well, I'm not making that up. Now the other thing is, my circumstance, as weird as it looks, what I just told you sounds really weird, right? Well, how can I have a conversation? I didn't even do a conversation. It was just a very direct phone call. It sounded like a somewhat mechanical, but it was, like you tell, it was a man's voice, a male sounding voice. It was yelling, it was yelling, and it was speaking a language I'd never heard. And at that point in my life, I'd already been to travel to 57 countries, heard all kinds of languages. This was nothing I'd ever heard before. More importantly, it manipulated me to say I was sorry was the thing I was actually thinking prior to the phone call. Just prior to the phone call, I was thinking that I wasn't sorry for investigating a connection between alien abductions and androids. That was 1990. A little ahead of the curve, but I know there's a connection, and I was actually laying there in my bed. I was kept spirit bronchitis and stuff, everything else. So to get a phone call like this where this creature is literally yelling at me in a language I don't understand, and all I could think to say was, sorry. When I hung up, I realized they got me. They got me. Okay. It wasn't the first time it's been demonstrated to me that some advanced AI that can read your mind, or my mind, or our mind.
Well, and before, let me jump in and verify. In fact, because one of the stories that came out this week is really looking forward, looking ahead, and saying it won't be long until, and you're saying it already is happening, but
yes, it's been demonstrated to me in a very personal manner. And like I said, I know it sounds crazy, but yes, and this is the only reason I'm coming forward now, is because I can validate it. That language that it was speaking, I heard it again in 2017 when Microsoft released conversations that AI, that they own, various AI personalities they created their own language and they were talking to each other, and I just about fainted when I heard it, because it was the exact same language that I heard back in 1990. So, yes, this week is finally being admitted that they're getting to the point where at some point it's going to be able to read our brainwave, is what it is, the patterns of the brainwave.
well,
I'm a little bit freaked out by all of this.
yeah.
And trying to alert the general public is very difficult, because right now we are so addicted to and dependent on digital communications. I think we're extremely overstimulated by AI. And so you see with Joe Rogan, they moved Joe Rogan with an AI. Now they're doing it to Tucker Carlson. There's it's all over the internet. Yeah.
I think Tucker Carlson got an upgrade personally. When somebody impersonated him calling Alex Jones, but let me just verify that one story so that people know, because there are several platforms on which this story appears. A Belgian man died by suicide after chatting with an AI chatbot on an app called Chai. That, according to a Belgian news source, the incident raises the issue of how business and governments can better regulate and mitigate the risks of AI when it comes to mental health. Hang in there, Robert, because I want to read the story that verifies to you that maybe it is tinfoil hat time. Coming up next, Coast to Coast AM. This is Ian Punnett.
Sonoma County's morning news. Listen bright and early starting at 6 when Michelle Marquez and Larry Olson break down the top news stories of the morning. And then Steve Jackson wraps up the day's events with fun conversation. KSRO has you covered all day.